we're going to talk about 3 AI prompts that you can start using today to supercharge your STRs. And I have with me as the special guest, Kyle Loveland. He's the CEO of Dreamspace Luxury Rentals based in New Jersey. Kyle was a Hostaway user before he was a Hostaway employee. So, of the many hats that Kyle wears, he is an employee here at Hostaway, making things work on the back end all the time. And he found Hostaway because he used it as a short-term rental host. Applied for a job, and the rest is history, as they say. So, welcome, Kyle. We'll turn it over to Kyle in a bit here. A little bit about what you maybe already know, but it's worth repeating. Hostaway, we are the leading short-term rental platform for property managers in the short-term rental space. We are a 100% remote company where we've got representation all over the world. Our customers are all over the world, and we are all over the world as well. Shameless plug here. If you can see my shirt, this was from Hostaway last year in Miami. This was our user conference. It was a huge success, tons of fun. Kyle and I will both be there. So make sure that you've got your ticket as well. And a little bit of an update, we've got the agenda live on the website. So hostaway.com. Go to the agenda tab and you can get a little bit of a taste of what's to come. We've got some really, really awesome speakers. We're going to have some Hostaway specific stuff. We're going to have some more market stuff. We're going to hear from our OTA partners, our partners. We're going to hear from customers. It's really a jam-packed agenda full of good stuff. And we made sure to fit in a bunch of time for networking and breaks too, because that's kind of the best part of all of this. So make sure to go to hostaway.com, check out the agenda, and grab your ticket. Now, to the matter at hand. So it occurs to me that there is a lack of real life use cases for AI. We all know we should be using AI. AI is the future, it's the present. But finding the real sort of tangible real life use cases beyond just using it as a search engine sometimes are few and far between, but we're getting better. And it made me think of this webinar that we did in April with Michael Chang. So that's a great one. I'll drop that link in the email that I send afterwards. But in that webinar, Michael showed how he's using ChatGPT, how his customer service agents are using ChatGPT to speed up the customer process, to improve the guest experience. And in this case, what he did was one of his agents had a very, very common complaint that I'm sure all of you have heard before. Why doesn't this dishwasher turn on? Could be a million reasons, but now instead of having to go back and troubleshoot sort of one by one, you can skip a whole bunch of steps by uploading a picture of your dishwasher into ChatGPT and asking it for troubleshooting help. ChatGPT will have access to the manual for that dishwasher, and we'll just be able to speed up the process. So it's a really good use case for how you can use ChatGPT to expedite your customer success team, how you can enable them to answer questions faster, and eventually we'll get to a place where it's really automated. So I thought this was a really good example and a good sort of question answer use case. But what I wanted to get on here in this webinar, and why I invited Kyle, is that's only using sort of a fraction of the power of ChatGPT. There's a whole side of ChatGPT and large language models that is generative and more analytical. It can really surface insights that a human could as well, but in a much faster time, crunching much more data. So that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to give you 3 real life prompts that Kyle has used in Hostaway to cover 3 different areas of the business, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So that's just to ground everyone in this. This is going past a little bit more just the question answer of ChatGPT and of AI, and going really into the generative side, the insights driven side. Now, in order to do that, one thing that I think is really important to talk about is this CRIT framework. And so this is the idea that with large language models, it's so powerful, but you're only going to kind of to get the most out of it, you need to input more into it. You need to give it the prompts. You need to set it up so that it answers your question to the fullest extent. Now, the CRIT framework is something that you'll see in the prompts that we show you coming up. But really, just to break it down quickly, it's context, role, interview, task. So context, what's the background of your prompt? What's the introductory statement? What are you trying to get? What are you trying to get at? Kind of what's the goal here? Then the role. This is a very useful and I think often missed aspect of using ChatGPT. Tell it the role it should play. In my case, often I'm the content marketing manager here. I often say, you are a content marketing manager in charge of SEO strategy. That really situates the model, the ChatGPT in this case, to understand, okay, I know the context and I know what it wants me to play, the role it wants me to play. Then the interview section, that's where you can actually, before you sort of get your output from ChatGPT or other LLMs, you can sort of do a bit of back and forth because often I don't know all of the information it needs to give me the best response. And so if you set your target, you set your goal, say, I'm looking to do X, what other information would be helpful before we begin? It asks you questions. And not only does that help you sort of reflect on the problem at hand, you really just are setting up the machine to do its best work. And then finally, you finish with the task, what it is you want it to do. So you'll see that crit framework show up in all the prompts we use here. Highly recommend it. Anytime you're going past just a simple question answer, the more you can give it the good context, the more you can set it up to be the role that you want it to operate as, the more you're going to be successful. So enough about me. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about here in the next 3 prompts?
Sure. Well, it's great to be back with you again, Ben. When we were setting up this webinar and talking about what we could do, it was generally like something AI, but we wanted to make it really impactful. And the idea that I had was around using things outside of Hostaway, right? Everybody knows that we have some great features embedded into our dashboard. We're working on some more behind the scenes, and that's what I do with my job as Hostaway Special Projects Lead. I'm consulting on a daily basis on that type of stuff. But with with what's available right now, different LLMs, you've ChatGPT is probably the most popular, and we're going to use that for the examples because that's most likely what people have access to. It opens up a lot of possibility to do things outside of Hostaway and things that hopefully will spark some ideas in you. Now, I wanted to make it so that it would go from an easier task, something that anybody can do with a free version of ChatGPT, no problem. Let's plug and play here, to something more intermediate and kind of totally different, a different use case for these models, and then something a bit more advanced that requires a little bit of copying and pasting in code. We're going to be using Google Script as well for that section. I wanted to make this less of an exhaustive tutorial here rather than just the conversation around it, getting people comfortable with the idea. If you haven't used an LLM, a large language model in this way, this is sort of your invitation to start doing so. Let's jump into our first prompt here, Ben.
All right, prompt number one, financial reports analysis. So I'll go ahead and just read the prompt. And maybe you can, as you're following along, audience, you can see where we're using that crit framework to really set this prompt up to its maximum potential. I am providing the last 12 months of booking history for a short-term rental property I manage in a CSV file. Please analyze the data as a revenue operations analyst to produce a detailed breakdown of seasonality. And this is where I won't go line by line, but you can really see, you can get into depth, and you should get into depth here, get really specific about what you want. And then Kyle finishes it off with, our goals are to maximize year round, optimize ADR, maximize revenue year round, pardon me, optimize ADR and occupancy by season, and attract longer stays to reduce turnover costs. So Kyle, set me up a little bit about why someone in your position would even want to run an analysis. Like,
Yeah, so Hostway is great at providing a dashboard with financial data, and you can see that in your rental activity report and your occupancy report. But sometimes looking at a bunch of numbers on a screen isn't really giving you the full picture. I mean, it'll tell you what, but it's not answering why or how. So to be able to take all of the data that's already readily available for you in Hostway, download it, and then feed it into a model with a really well-constructed prompt is going to give you deeper insight than probably you've had before, unless you're a professional revenue manager, or hiring somebody to do this. There may be big gaps in how you're performing or in glaring patterns that you have that could be corrected for by applying length of stay rules, discounts based on length of stay. adjusting your strategy seasonally. So a model like this will very quickly be able to analyze, give you some KPIs, key performance indicators to continue to watch going forward. So hopefully you'll be learning as you go and adding these tools to your own toolbox. But also just being able to identify, hey, you seem to really book up quickly on the weekends, but you're not getting anything through the midweek. Maybe we need to be adding a length of stay discount for these times of the year. Maybe we need to be really increasing our rates on the weekends to even out that booking trend. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can happen through that. Now, with this prompt, this actually circumvents the interview part. This is something that you can drop right in along with your report, and we can go on to the next slide here. So in Hostaway, you can download these reports from rental activity, filter it by like your last 12 months, and then you can go and download it. But in order to actually create that prompt in the first place, I follow the CRIT framework, and the goals that we have in that prompt might not be your goals, right? I wanted something to be more generic and generally useful to short-term rental operators. But not everybody wants the same things. You might not want to maximize occupancy. Maybe you just wanna have, a maximum revenue regardless. So just, really dialing in those high ADR nights, and, and you don't wanna deal with the wear and tear, or even, try to have, quite so many turnovers. So there's different things that people are going to want. But that's all the interview process, right? The LM is probably gonna ask you what your goals are specifically, or, what you're hoping to achieve by giving it this data. So anyway, once we download that report, then we can move on to the next one, where we actually put it into Hostaway, and then, it's going to produce all sorts of data for you. GPT-5 has gotten really good with this, being able to have graphs embedded in the response itself, and then also things like Excel files that you can download, and you can manipulate the data yourself afterward. This is a great jumping off point, and you're probably going to learn something right here in the prompt, something that maybe you haven't noticed before or that can help you. So I wanted to hit you with this project first, just to deliver something quick and actionable.
On to the second prompt here. We're going to talk about building custom web pages. So I'll read the prompt. I'd like to build a custom web page on my Hostaway direct booking site using HTML. My goal is to create an FAQ section with expandable answers. You are my web developer. What other information would you like from me before we begin? So, Kyle, neither you nor I are developers. And this is a huge unlock that ChatGPT and other LLMs give us to um, to really expand our ability to just write code and create new web pages. So I'll turn it over to you. Tell me a little bit more about why this is important, why this is valuable, and some of the example, or the example that we're talking about here with an FAQ section.
Yeah, so I wanted to include this in here because some people aren't familiar yet with the term vibe coding. This is going to be a real buzzword, and now you're going to hear it all the time. Ben and I were just talking about the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, but anyway, that's just a nerdy aside. The the goal of this prompt is to get you thinking about how you can do things that you might not have the technical skills for. For me, I did teach myself to code in C, when I was in college, and I don't have the patience for debugging, and it is just a truly unpleasant thing for me for me, just the way that I'm built. So now to be able to use an AI to be able to very quickly iterate and find all the little mistakes that I'm making in my code, I mean, it's huge. And now I'd say it's so good that for light duty work, you can get the work of a junior developer out of a system like ChatGPT. And just to answer a question from the chat, yeah, you do want to use Assistant outside. So you have OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude is also very good. That's actually probably my preference right now. But then there's also Google Gemini, and you do have what X's Grok. I mean, there's those would probably be the most popular ones, but I mean that's a whole different webinar. We'd have to get into. So anyway, vibe coding is telling an LLM what you want to do, and then it actually does the coding for you. It's just another language, like English or French or Portuguese, uh, but it's a language that you might not know, and you can have it translate. Yes, vibe, like VIBE. So if if what you get out of it is looking good, that's great, you're finished. If you need to make changes to it, you can ask it for those changes in plain English. So, "Hey, I like the way this looks, can we change this?" So, once we get that output, we can move on to the next slide. For our project here, we can actually go into Hostaway again. So now we're back in the Hostaway dashboard, and we can go to the booking engine. If you're using the Hostaway templated site, this is something that you can do, and you can create a new page. So once you click create a new page, and you go in there, you're going to be able to add the HTML. If you could move on to the next slide, Ben. Thank you very much. You have an area where you can add the HTML. Now, again, we're going to have a walkthrough for all of this, so it'll be in more detail. Um, but all you're doing is copying what you get out of ChatGPT, and you're going to paste it in this box. You check it off, you save the page, and then you can see a preview, how it looks, how it's functioning. And then from there, if it isn't looking right, if you want to change the font or change how things behave, uh, go back to the model, go back to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, this is great. I like that it's opening up the FAQs, but I'd like them to collapse again if I click on another one." And then it'll say, great. And it might give you, say, a piece of code to add in. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can always ask it to completely redo the code for you. And then you'll have something that, again, you can copy and paste in there. It's a little bit more time consuming than doing it yourself, but you can achieve things without having to pay somebody from Upwork or Fiverr to do it for you, and it's going to unlock the, possibilities and let you really start to think creatively about what you'd like to accomplish in your business, but never had the resources for, in the past.
And I'll just make a comment here that I definitely appreciate that this can seem a little high level, little ethereal. It's hard to make the connection between what what this means at a high level and the real impact. Um, you got to try it. You just got to try it because what you'll find, and that's where the prompt really comes in. If you have a really good prompt like we've set up for you, that will really it'll show itself pretty quickly how powerful this is. And then a last little thing I'll say quickly, I mean, on the content side at Hostaway, we're finding that LLMs, like ChatGPT, they really thrive on FAQs. So having a whole FAQ page devoted to your direct booking website can be really valuable. I've found a couple times recently where the messaging or the copy that I've put in an FAQ on a blog or on a landing page, it's been surfaced verbatim by ChatGPT. So really, there's a step there, not to make things too high level again, but in terms of how you want to brand your company, in the eyes of the LLMs, an FAQ page can be really valuable. So that's great. So, and then this is the output, right? This is what we're looking at right now. Um, this is what we're looking at right now, Kyle, on the screen. Is this is kind of what the FAQ would look like?
Yeah, so this would be like the basic output here, and again, you can change colors, you can ask it to do all sorts of things. And again, we will have that workbook that's gonna have, many more steps. I wanted to keep this, in the webinar itself as just a primer for that, for the more in-depth tutorials. It's very difficult to do these things in real time and actually get through, so many different, possibilities. But yes, being able to uh, demonstrate what this looks like. As soon as you start playing around with it and make some mistakes, right? You can always go back to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, this didn't work. What am I doing wrong?" If you don't understand a term that it's using, ask it to explain for a layperson or for a non-technical user what it means, and it will. it will be your best tutor on this stuff as well. So there's a ton that can be learned. I really feel like we're in a totally new place with this from where we were just a couple of years ago. So um, all I can do and what I would encourage is that this might not be the custom web page you're looking for, although FAQs are great, and that's why we wanted to have that as our example here. There's all sorts of stuff. If you can think of it, you should be able to build it or at least start getting there, and maybe you hire somebody to finish it off, but this is gonna save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and you're gonna learn some new stuff along the way.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the third prompt. And now, admittedly, this is the most intricate of all of the prompts, but I think everyone can understand the value of conversation analysis. So let's get into it. I'll read the prompt out. Take the conversation history from the short-term rental listing and identify all of the frequently asked questions. Then create templates from answers that have been given by the host to speed up future responses. These will be added to Hostaway, so you can use the following dynamic fields to make the messages more flexible. So talk to me a little bit about this prompt and a little bit about the impetus for, why you would want to create an analysis like this in the first place.
Yeah, so this is one of those prompts where we're actually gonna be employing multiple tools now, and this is why we've taken it, from one step with the reservation reports to the next step of doing a bit of coding using a model like ChatGPT, and then here we're at that third level. This is where we're taking what we've learned about um, using a bit of code. Maybe you might need to become more comfortable before you take on this step, but I wanted to really push people and sort of stretch what I know that anybody in this call, technical or non-technical, can do just by following along. And over time, you'll get better at this. Now, I'm actually I'd love to do a follow-up to Hacking Hostaway where we can get into more about this and leveraging the API. So that's my little push for you, Ben. I think we could have a follow-up here because there's so much to get into. But the conversation analysis,
And so, Kyle, just to interject there. So we got a couple of questions from Pascal, which I think you're about to get to. But Pascal's asking, how do you get all of the conversations out of Hostaway to AI to read?
yeah, and so that's exactly the challenge, right? We have all this stuff in Hostaway, and um, and I would absolutely not want to copy and paste the amount of data that can be pulled. So what we're gonna do in this one is in order to get to this final prompt of actually analyzing the conversation, the first step is we're gonna need to get all of that information. So we're gonna leverage the API to do this. The application programming interface is the way that one piece of software can talk to another piece of software. And in this case, we're going to be using a script that's just a piece of code that has a function that runs inside of Google Scripts. I chose that one because it's free and great for light duty work. So you can try it out. It costs nothing. It's like Google Docs or Google Sheets. It's one of those things that like once you use it, it's just free and easy to access. So we're going to go to scripts.google.com and you're going to start a new project. This should look familiar aesthetically from the other Google products that you've seen. But once you click on that, and we can move on to the next one.
Yep.
There there we go, perfect. You have an area where you can add in code. Now, in our workbook, we're going to have all of this code included with instructions on the tweaks that you're going to want to make to it. So yeah, how will you send us a link for the Google prompt? That it will all be in a shared document, and we'll get that to everybody. But you're gonna copy and paste this script, which I've already written and iterated on to make it very easy for you. And excuse me, we got a minute alert. As a property manager, sometimes those noise alerts come at inopportune times. Anyway, so we're gonna be pasting it in here, and you're going to make a couple changes. You want to add your own listing ID, and we're going to add our own Google Sheet ID. This will all become more clear in the workbook, but essentially, we want to pull all of the stuff, all of the messages from that listing that are in Hostaway onto a Google Sheet. Google Sheet and Google Scripts, they work well together. So once we have all of this set up, we can move on to actually creating the API key that we can use for the communication or for the script function. So you're going to create this public key. Again, we'll have more steps in the walkthrough that we share after. But once you have that key, we're going to go back to Google Scripts now. So that'll be right here. And we can actually add in these things called script properties. And this is where you're going to put your secret API key and then also the ID number for your Hostaway account. So that's the information that it's going to need in order to get started with this.
Cool.
Um, so now we're going to go back to the other page. We'll save it if we haven't already. And then we're going to hit run. And as soon as you do that, after you've made all these changes and done what you need to do, it's going to immediately start asking Hostaway for the conversation history from this listing, conversation by conversation. And it's going to take that data and it's going to put it onto this Google Sheet that we have set up. So now we can move on to the next slide. And this is where once we have the Google Sheet with all that data, we can save that as a CSV file. So you just go to File, Download, comma separated value. And then once you have that, you can upload it along with the prompt that we had at the beginning here. That's all going into ChatGPT. And that is going to give us this information. So we've taken it out of Hostaway in a way that's much faster than if you went and copy and pasted every single conversation you've ever had. It may not actually pull all of it. So Google Script has a limit of 6 minutes on how long their scripts can run. It might time out after that, or you might finish early. If it times out, that's no problem because you've probably already pulled enough data in order to get a really solid conversation analysis. To give you an idea, I was able to pull, I think, 2.5 years of conversation history on a single listing in that 6 minutes. So you're going to have plenty of examples of dialogue. So we can, I think we'll leave it here. But we have a bonus in the workbook as well. So yeah, you can ask it about frequently asked questions, and we could even take that and put it into the previous prompt in order to build out your FAQ section. But something else that I've done using this is ask it to actually create instructions for an AI model to respond like the host. So if you ask it about particular rules, speech patterns, frequent phrases that get used in conversation by the host, you can have it pull a list of all of those. And Ben, as somebody in marketing and one of the strongest writers I know, will really be able to appreciate that it's all of that type of nuance that creates a more personal tone. If you've ever felt like the responses that Hostway's AI responder gives are a little bit more generic, you can always go into your settings and add these types of rules and add instructions around their tone in order to dial this in. And this is a function in Hostway that's only going to be getting better going forward. We've got some really exciting stuff right now in beta.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Some additional resources to keep in mind: Hostaway support page, tons of information about Hostaway AI and how to use it. The Hostaway marketplace, if you're looking for a third-party partner software to help add to your PMS stack, just search by categories AI and you'll see a whole bunch of them. And then lastly, we've got a whole landing page about Hostaway AI and everything that you can do with it. And I'll also just do a plug to one of our sister webinars, if we call it that. If you're a Hostaway customer, you are invited to the CS Office Hours webinars put on by Andrew. That happens mostly every week. talk to your CSM, ask them to tell you more information about the office hours, because in those sessions, it's really Andrew going really like slide by slide, for lack of a better word, in Hostaway to tell you how this functionality works. He also brings on some great guests as well. So thanks everyone for this. Keep an eye out for the recording, and we'll see you next month. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Ben. Have a good one.